Yeah, it's thank God it's Friday, and Abuja, like she said, beautiful, and good morning to you guys over there. Yeah. TJ? Yeah, well, there's this will I say back and forth between the US and Nigeria concerning visa issue?
Well, I hear that, they're about to meet to resolve or reconcile these issues. It's a good development, I must say. I just hope that they're sorting out all these issues, especially how easy it is to apply and get the visas.
Exactly.
I hope that, all this is smoothing out because Nigerians really enjoy going to the US, I believe. So this process should be made easier. But earlier they said this is like a retaliation from the US because President Tinubu stopped issuing a 5-year multiple entry visa to them. But I have a statement here that says, contrary to that, I think this is from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which says, contrary to misinformation and fake news circulating online, President Bola Tinubu has never stopped issuing a 5-year multiple entry visa for U.S. citizens in accordance with the principle of subsisting bilateral agreements and reciprocity. Immediately after assuming office, President Tinubu's administration issued a service-wide directive that Nigeria implements all bilateral agreements with other nations and adheres to the principle of reciprocity in diplomatic relations. So they're just, disputing those claims that
it's an unfounded rumor.
Exactly.
And just after the President Trump talked about if you align with BRICS nation, that he's going to come hard on those nations. So it's like you made a statement the previous day and the following day. This is happening because we attended the BRICS meeting. So
it's just a good one that
whatever
discussions
it is,
are in the pipeline.
Let them reconcile the differences so that
it turns out positive. Exactly. Well, good morning, Nigerians, and welcome to Friday's edition of FCT Brief. Nigeria and the European Union have signed a landmark agreement to inject fresh energy into the creative sector with a €20 million initiative aimed at unlocking the vast potential of Nigerian talents, industries, and cultural heritage. The creative industry in Nigeria, from Nollywood and music to fashion and digital art, continues to gain global recognition. But now, a new joint initiative between Nigeria and the European Union seeks to push the sector to even greater heights. This partnership deal will promote job creation, innovation, and economic diversification through the creative economy.
The initiative will focus on capacity building, fundings for startups, access to digital infrastructure, and training for creatives across the country. Key areas include music, film, fashion, visual arts, and tech-enabled creative platforms. The program also aligned with Nigeria's renewed focus on youth employment and economic resilience, especially in non-oil sectors. As Nigeria continues to export its sound, style, and stories to the world, this new partnership may just be the spark needed to transform passion into prosperity. For more on this development and the visit of the President to St. Lucia, we have with us in the studio the Minister of Art, Culture, and Creative Economy, Hannatu Musa Sawa. Thank you for coming on the program today.
Thank you so much for having me
in our studio.
All right, let's start this way with this bilateral agreement between Nigeria and the European Union, €20 million.
Yes.
What does this translate to us here in Nigeria, and how do we place our buttons to derive the best benefits?
Thank you again for having me. It's a very exciting time for Nigeria, especially when it comes to the area of not only tourism, creative industry, and the culture as well. With the European Union, it's an agreement. We have not signed the MOU yet, but we're in talks. And yesterday I had very meaningful discussions with the ambassador of the European Union to boost our partnership and our collaboration. Of course, in the area of capacity building, as you said, area of building on infrastructure. From the very beginning, it was not lost on me what needed to be done. I think it's very obvious what needs to be done to boost the creative industry and for us to really make it a huge means of value and growth for the country. So things like capacity building, infrastructure, as you've spoken to, we have alluded to, and the area of policy. For the Europeans, for the global community at large, they want to see that Nigeria, from an administrative point of view, has come with the right variables, has put up the meaningful frameworks that will allow them to partner with us, that will give them security, specifically in terms of the investment that they bring onto the table. So with the discussions that we're having and with the French Treasury, which that one we've already signed an MOU with, whereby we have investment of 100 million euro that is going to go directly into building infrastructure assets to boost the creative industry. So they have seen the framework that we have put in place with the policy. IP policy number one is something that has eluded the industry. What we're doing in terms of the copyright and what we're doing in terms of just putting the enabling environment for them to come in. And I think we've been able to get their confidence. And this is why you're seeing my ministry and the government signing MOUs, not only with the European Union, not only with the French government, but with UAE. We've signed an MOU with the UAE. With Saudi Arabia, we've signed one. We're just on the verge of signing one with Russia, and with a plethora of other international community that are interested in tapping into the huge resources that we have in Nigeria when it comes to the culture and the creative. But they just want to know that Nigeria has put up the right framework that will also protect their own investment as it comes in.
Interesting. Well, President Tinubu's visit to St. Lucia made the headlines, and you were part of that team that went with him. Beyond the cheers and warm reception, what exactly does Nigeria stand to benefit from this visit?
Thank you. Well, first of all, St. Lucia was absolutely beautiful, but I have to say, thank God that we have a president that has the sort of foresight to really open up the envelope as we do with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. St. Lucia, on paper, does not seem as a fit for Nigeria to go and do a partnership with, right? It's a country of less than 200,000 population, which is like as small or as big as my singular village in Nigeria. So you wouldn't think it is the ordinary or the normal way we should gravitate. But because of the foresight of the president, and as you see with the global happenings in the world, you know, Nigeria has to be very creative in opening up other opportunities, especially with countries that want us to come in and to do business. St. Lucia is the gateway to the Caribbean. Despite the fact that it's a country that has less than 200,000 in terms of population, but St. Lucia is the main, I think it is that is where the organization of the Eastern Caribbean countries reside. So when you open up partnership with St. Lucia, that is an access to 44 million population and 13 different countries. So when you think of it in that way, when you approach it in that way, you see that really St. Lucia has a lot to offer in terms of resources. And then you'd think this is a community that has an appetite and a hunger for Nigerian culture, for African culture. So this is an area that we really want to look into. Cultural diplomacy, cultural, different festivals. Their festival, which really mirrors the Calabar Festival, they're interested in what we have to offer with Dirty December or Jude Oba, with our Durbas, with the Arugungu Fishing Festivals. There's a lot of areas of similarity. And again, tourism. We're looking up to open up our tourism assets. And you look at a country like St. Lucia and many of the Caribbean countries that have been able to really bring tourism, really exercise tourism to a state that the whole global community wants to go to the Caribbean. So this is an area of capacity building that I, as a minister sitting on top of tourism, wants to see what we can do in terms of tapping into their own resource when it comes to tourism to teach us. Already we have signed an MOU with St. Lucia that's going to open Nigeria up to a number of resorts in Nigeria, tourism resorts, and then see how they can also tap into what we have to offer for culture. They have an interest. I tell you, in St. Lucia, every single person that you talk to is talking about Nollywood. That is the one thing. That is a one area of interest. Not even the music, is the Nollywood, is the film industry. So can you imagine the different partnerships that we can open up the Nollywood industry to? From filming, co-production in the Caribbean, the filming, the locations that we can have, and as well as the fashion. They have an interest as the fashion. So we want to open them up to come into the Nigerian market, to look at how they can get resource from our leather, from our ashoke. So there's a number of benefits and worth that can, and values that can benefit both of us. So it's really about looking at what each country has, or the Caribbean has, or what Nigeria has, and to see what is mutually beneficial. And for me, is to continue to see what we can extract from St. Lucia. And like I said again, thank God that we have a president that has the foresight to think outside the box in terms of not only with the industry, my own industry, in environment, St. Lucia, what it has done with the environment ecosystem, with the health ecosystem. There's a lot of things that we can partner. So we don't need to go to countries that we're struggling to even get an appointment to get a visa. You have a whole community, millions and millions of black people that have interest in you, and that have a vested interest in knowing about your culture and your shared heritage. And so I think that's primarily what the value of the St. Lucia visit was.
Honourable Minister, I like the way you put it, the numerous advantages in us relating with St. Lucia, whichever country we want to have a partnership with. If we look at the history of several partnerships we've had, sometimes people say we go into some of these partnerships as a weaker partner. And I like the fact that we have a lot of potential in Nigeria. Now, how is your ministry repositioning these various potentials so that these beautiful brides that are coming in to have friendship with us, we will market our very best and protect the practitioners in that sector? We talked about the Nollywood.
Yeah.
How do we protect the practitioners in that industry, in the creative industry, to ensure that, look, when the investors come in, they don't take undue advantage of our practitioners?
Thank you very much. You know, the protection of practitioners and by and large Nigerians was at the forefront of the commitment that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had from the very beginning. When he set up this ministry, the first of its kind, which is, to me, very surprising that no president before him thought of setting up a standalone ministry that would look into the huge resource that we have in the culture. We talk about our diversity, right? And the creativity and the moment that Nigeria is having presently. So for him to have set that up, he gave a number of marching orders. One was he wanted to ensure that this ministry had the ability to bring economic expansion, to contribute to the nation economically. The second was he really wanted the issue of job creation. He looked at the growing population in Nigeria and said, you know, the best way to absorb them into the job market was to also offer them an environment that will allow them to be able to do so in the cultural and the creative industry. And then the other thing he said was that we must make sure we give protection. What President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said to me was that that protection has to go hand in hand. Yeah. So you have to ensure that you protect the practitioners in Nigeria and to ensure that you protect investment as it comes in. So I spoke to you earlier on about policy. So the first thing that I did was to look at the issue of the policy. We have been working for the last year and a half or so on the issue of ensuring that we come and produce a holistic, a wholesale intellectual property policy for the country. We've done a number of stakeholder engagements, and I have to thank the former Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Honourable Doris, who really did a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of putting a robust policy framework in place. And really the main reason why it's taken us a bit longer was because there was a reshuffle last year in which there was a new minister, Minister Jumoke, who has done a very brilliant job as well in inheriting what Doris had already, I think, completed at that point. But now we have finished with the policy. and we are about to present it. The Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, in conjunction with my ministry and in conjunction with the Ministry of Justice, is about now to present that to the Federal Executive Council. So alas, practitioners in the industry and the global community know that Nigeria has a robust intellectual property policy that covers a number of industries, but for my industry, it is very foundational. And we're working together, very, very closely together, with the Ministry of Justice to ensure that copyright as well, there has to be protection.
Exactly.
Because when you talk about, for example, Michael Jackson and the worth of his catalogue, but look at the catalogue that we have with Kenneth's Music, the catalogue with your John Jazzy's, the catalogue with your Fellas, they're not protected. This is a lot of worth and value that we are losing, and then the practitioners are losing. So that has been at the forefront based on the directive that was given to me by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and we have done that. We will deliver that. We have delivered it, but by the time it goes to the Federal Executive Council and gets that approval, we would have delivered it. And then when you talk about protection as well, protection, once infrastructure, my ministry has had a little bit of a struggle from the beginning because we met a ministry that started from ground zero. And when I mean ground zero, it was really ground zero. When you see a lot of these other ministries moving, it's because they already have the funding to be able to do so, and they have already, the ground has been already, the foundation has been set up. But we had to set up a foundation with little or no funding. But we have leveraged on the support that we've had from the president himself that has made it very, very easy for us to open up doors. And we've leveraged on the interest that the international community has in the industry. And we've been able to raise $200 million from Afrexim Bank that has now is now presently being injected directly into the industry because the industry players don't have funding. So they have done a great job because they're Nigerians, and Nigerians always do a great job on their own, right? So organically, they've done a great job. Government has never, up until now, come in to give them that environment that will allow them to grow the industry on their own. So we're giving them policy. We're working on infrastructure. Abuja Stadium, $4.5 thousand music stadium has already been commissioned in the next 6 months together with NCAC, DG of NCAC, Obiasika, and MEFA. So that is going to be up and running. The one in Lagos is going to be up and running soon, hopefully, $12,000 seater. And hubs. As much as we want to create musicians and artists and superstars in the industry, you can't do it without proper capacity building. There's so much raw talent. So with the support of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we have been able to raise 100, and I spoke to you about it earlier on, 100,000 euro from the French Treasury that is going to build hubs. So hubs we've already started with that, hubs in 6 geopolitical zones, animation hubs, fashion hubs. So the ink is almost dried on that. And then data. One of the key things that I found that was missing when I came on board was there was no data to be able to give a proper information or interrogation of the industry itself. So we have just completed a data mapping. I think we completed it last week, actually, together with BCG, EY, and Big Win. So it's almost revolutionary because now we have the data, and even the data that we had before that said Nigeria is contributing a certain amount, increasing the GDP from the creative industry was not the right data because a data mapping had never been done. So now we have the data. Now we know the numbers. We know where to go. Investors coming in are going to have the information to know where the numbers are. I've done that for the creative industry. I'm still in the process of finalizing the data mapping for the tourism industry. But by the time we are going to have a creative economy coordination summit, because what you find is a lot of players are doing things informally, but we've not been able to aggregate everything together. At this summit, we will present the data, we'll present the mapping, international community will see the mapping, government will see the mapping, so we'll be able to have a better capture of where, when, how, So people coming into the sector know where the money is, where the jobs are, and we are going to create based on this data, 2.7 million jobs by 2030. And we know they are there. And through this data mapping, by the time we are able to, in the next, I think, week or 2 weeks at the most, once we are able to unveil it, Nigerians will know that the creative industry, this is the impact. The government will be able to capture it. MBS, despite the fact that MBS has said that we have created 257,000 jobs in 2024. But now with this data mapping, we will know clearly this is the worth and the value of the creative industry.
Well, Honorable Minister, you have your hands quite full.
It is quite full, yes.
Yeah, well, but content creation is another gold mine in Nigeria's creative industry. Yes. But there are still limitations and restrictions. What's being done to help these young Nigerians maximize the opportunities they have now?
You know, the content creation, as you said, is one of they call it low-hanging fruits, but it really is a low-hanging fruit. And what is so important about the content creation is not every Nigerian, not every 240 million of us has ability to work in a law firm or in an oil company. But every young Nigerian has the ability to create content on their phone. Exactly. So as a government, through the instruction of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we have got to be very intentional in ensuring that we take the ability to every single nook and cranny of the nation to be able to get this content. So the IP that I spoke to you about, the policy, will be able to give them the ability to protect their IP. And now we have an IP monetization that will also allow them to use their IP, whether it's through the content or the specific unique peculiarity of that content that they create, to be able to monetize it and use that as collateral for their business. And then I have a platform called Creative Leap Acceleration Program. It's a digital platform that allows, no matter where you are in the country, every content creator has the ability to access funding, has the ability to see the networks, to get the accesses that they need. So as a government, what we need to do is to ensure that we put up a structure in place for these young people. That structure is that capacity building, is the access to funding, is the infrastructure. Even if the infrastructure isn't able to come to their villages, but they should be able to access it through the government portal, which is Creative Leap Acceleration Program. Okay. And just to be able to know that when they create this content, or they can just create content as a form of job creation. So again, it's back down to the enabling environment. And by the time we unveil this data mapping, I think these content creators as well will be able to know this is the value from the content creation, and these are the routes that they go, or these are the networks that they follow in order for them to be able to bring that real value to them as individuals, to their society, and to the country by and large.
I quite like the aspect of this content creation, because if we have the proper data, like you said, we will realize that it's a huge economy, the content creation. Now, you talked about the hubs. Yeah. And also, I was thinking also about the film village, because of the interest of places like St. Lucia in the Nollywood. Yes. Is it possible, is there a window of you collaborating with like the various regional development commissions or the state government, so that we have these hubs, or whether it is the film villages, multi-purpose film villages created, so that content creators can have easy access to places where they can create content of international standard? Yeah.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because it would have been a crying shame if I left without touching on that issue. Earlier on in the year, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I think he, in his second year remark, or was it in the New Year remark, spoke about a renewed hope, cultural and creative project. Now, this is a project that allows us at the federal government to do handshakes and partnerships with the subnationals. So you spoke about each state has a unique peculiarity, whether it's in film that you spoke about. So it gives us the ability to go to every single state, sign this MOU, and allow the state to populate it. Now, within populating or fleshing out this MOU, we bring some suggestion, and every suggestion based on the vision of Mr. President is to have a creative and cultural village in every single state. And this creative and cultural village will now take into account what is peculiar in that state. And every single state that we have been to has spoken about within this creative and cultural state is to do this film village, whereas every state has creatives that want to be able to create. So now it makes it easier for us, and no longer do we work in silo based on this renewed hope cultural village, whereby the states and the federal government, the subnationals and the federal governments will now put their resources together. And then every single state will be able to have the participation, or every member of the state knows that there's an entity within the state that will have this asset for them to go and record, whether it's through the hubs or it's through the film village or it's through the cultural village. But it is going to be driven by and large by the states. Because whatever we do, we have to think about the long-term sustainability. And I think that was the vision of Mr. President when he came up with this project. He was thinking of us as a federal government or as an industry, keying into that peculiarity in the states. And every single state, I tell you, is talking about doing a film village. And then at the federal government level, we are seriously in talks to see how, and I just came down from America from the Tyler Perry studio, is thinking of how we do a physical Nollywood space, whereby is a film studio. And we're still in, like I said, it's still in talks with the state governments in Lagos, here in FCT, or in Enugu, I mean, yes, of course, Enugu, to see where we can situate a physical Nollywood. Because Nollywood, again, this is one of our key resources. People talk about the music all the time, but Nollywood is something different. And Nollywood is also going to key into the tourism. If people come into Nigeria, just like they go into America to go and see Hollywood, to have a physical Nollywood space, I think that would be huge for boosting the economy from a tourism perspective and from a cultural and creative perspective as well.
Well, Honorable Minister, you've highlighted a lot of amazing things being done through your ministry under the Tinubu administration. But criticism continues to pour in for President Tinubu's administration, and it seems to be growing louder, especially from the opposition. Are you worried about this affecting public confidence in government?
I really am not. I mean, if there was no noise from the opposition, then it wouldn't be a democracy. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has spent the best part of his life, fighting for the democracy of this nation. He has literally laid his life down for it. This is a man who wants democracy. He is not looking for a two-party state or one-party state. He wants politics to be vibrant. And I think it is disingenuous also of the opposition to think the government or APC is not also going to play a political game, right? It's like a game of chess. Everybody has to do their own move. You don't expect one player to continue moving and the other player doesn't move at all. This is what is going to strengthen our democracy. Yes, there's a lot of criticism, but if there wasn't criticism, then what would you expect? This is not a president who is looking for a popularity contest. This is a president that is looking to do something sustainable. Thank God, as we grow in a nation, a growing nation, right? We have someone that has the courage and the clout to do the right things. We inherited a dead government, a dead economy. Something had to be done very, very differently. And thank God you have someone who has the vision to remain in focus and not listen to the naysayers. He is on a path of creating a different economy for Nigeria. And I think they said the definition of a madman is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. He wasn't looking for the same result. We were going down in the doldrums. He needed to recalibrate Nigeria, put us in the right direction. And I'm really glad that he is remaining focused in ensuring that we get through we go through the motions and get to the end of it. This is, I think people who judge the president or judge this government, judge it now, have every right to do so, right? But you know, a leader can only be judged effectively by history, because it's only history that has the ability to look at things from an objective point of view, from a point of view that is detached. And I think the route and way that the president is going about, he will be judged fairly by history. And I think Nigerians in the next generation will look back and be grateful that we had a president that was able to take us off the path of destruction and recalibrate us on the right way. And I'm glad that I'm part of that journey and I can play a part. So politics is politics. We expect this to come. But I believe that by the end of 2 months, this is macroeconomics, that benefits that we're seeing now. I think what Nigerians need to feel is the microeconomics. But it's one after another, isn't it? The microeconomics will be felt once we're on the right way. And honestly, I'm grateful to President and the Vice President that they are staying the course. And I know Nigeria will be better for it because of this mission and vision that we have from our two leaders.
Well, Honorable Minister, quite a robust discussion we had this morning. I wish we could continue, but time is not our friend.
Yes. Time really isn't our friend.
Exactly. Yeah. We want to say thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for having me.